So I'm going to show you how we mount and dismount these large wheel and tire assemblies. We're going to be utilizing the Hunter Maverick tire changer. So right here we have a 26 by 16 inch American Force wheel, and then this is a 405 30 26 Fury tire. So it's roughly about 36 inch tire by 15 and a half or so inches wide. So on this one, reverse mount. Our biggest challenges are we're 17 inches from outside on this wheel, and then we got to bring this whole tire up and off. So we have a huge width that we're going to have to deal with. So we want to maintain as low on this tire changer as possible, so that way we don't run into all of this this tooling on the dismount process. So for this, we're going to utilize this pin plate. Now this does come standard with these 4-inch lugs, and we're going to use the adapter kit to bring us down to these 2-inch, which is going to be more than enough to give us clearance on the front of the wheel without making any contact, but it's going to keep us as low on the machine as possible. So this machine, we do have the wheel lift on it, but this is an extremely heavy assembly, so we're going to use 2 people. It will hold the weight, it just won't lift it by itself. Another thing to note is, since this wheel is going to sit so low, that once the wheel lift is up, it's actually going to be able to contact these lips. So we're just going to simply put a towel down over the wheel lift just to keep it from potentially marring the lift or marring the wheel at all. So we get our clamp in. Then we will get all lubricated. So we're going to lubricate the wheels for sure, demount head, and then we're going to go around, we're going to lubricate the whole wheel edge and tire. So it's going to take some doing. These are F-rated tires, so they are very, very thick and rigid. So at this point, we're going to start setting our tooling. So we're going to bring it in to roughly the right area. Bring this stuff down. Okay, so we're pretty good there. I like to roll around at a decent speed and just kind of work my way in with it. Now I got plenty of time, so I'm just going to keep rolling and just lightly working my way in. And once I get low enough, there we are. So now we're going to start our bottom roller. So we'll bring that one up. We'll start rolling it. And if you need to, you can apply lubrication to the wheel right here pretty easily if you got a pretty dry unit. And we're going to work that in. And just slowly work it up. If it seems pretty dry or you hear it squeaking, you can keep applying lubrication to the wheel. Okay, so on this we do have the large demount hook. For the F-rated tires, it's a little bit easier to get them with that hook. We're going to make sure that the whole tool head is nice and lubricated, and we're going to plunge it down in there. Sometimes with these real thin sidewalls, it's difficult for the hook to get in there, so you got to kind of work it in. So we're going to launch it down. It's going to push down on it a little bit. We might have to bring it up. And then it'll click down. So you just gotta kind of work with it. So we'll bring it back up. At this point, we'll get this in there to gain a little bit of traction. And we'll start rolling it. If we need to add more lubrication, we can. Just to make sure when we're rolling over this top lip that we don't cause any marring or anything like that without any lubrication. Okay, so now that we got the top bead done, we're going to go after the bottom. So we're going to use the bottom roller to help lift this assembly up, because we got to go, it's pretty tight, so we got to go straight up. We can also utilize this tool head to be able to pull it up with that demount hook as well. So we'll bring these up. Apply a little bit of pressure here, and then we'll guide it with our hand on the back side as we go straight up. This tire doesn't have any TPMS, so we don't quite have to worry about that. And then one thing to consider is this has a huge barrel, but we want to make sure that we get this bottom bead up into our drop center. Otherwise, this is going to be pretty difficult. So we're pretty level right here. So we're going to poke this bottom roller through and purge it out. So one thing that you can notice at this point is, see how close we are to this top roller, and we aren't even fully dismounted. So if we would have had these 4-inch pins on the pin plate, it would have been a little bit more challenging. We have still done it with those, but you just start to run into this roller. So having those short pins really gives you the most clearance that you possibly can, so you don't have any interruption. So now we're going to start rolling this through. You want to pay attention to your demount hook too, make sure that it's not catching there. But that's all well lubricated, it's moving around nicely. If you need to, you can keep lubricating here, and then it's going to fall right off. All right, so something that you might run into is we got this tire dismounted now, but all of our tooling's in the way, so we need to figure out how to get this thing out of here, right? So what you can do is you can tilt this tire up, load it on the top machine just like we, and we're going to do the same on install as well. We can use the bottom roller to kind of give us some support. I'll try to do it myself right now to see if it works, but basically you can kind of flip it up here and load it up there. So now it'll come straight out. Some assemblies are more difficult than others, but when we go to put the tire back on this thing, you'll kind of do the same process. So you'll load the tire up top, get your wheel mounted, and then you'll be able to flip it back down. Some tires you can get away without it, some tires you can't, especially when they got more sidewall than this. All right, so now we got the wheel cleaned up, we got the new valve stem installed, and we got the tire loaded up on here. So now I'm gonna grab a buddy, we're gonna flip this down, and then we'll start the install process. So these tires are big enough to where they're just gonna fall on the bottom bead, but we'll try to capture it just for fun. Get down in there, slide it around. I think it's just gonna wanna fall, but it's hard to even get it on there. Either way, there's just enough room. I can't really get it where it needs to be, but it'll still do the job. So now that we got it to this point, we're gonna utilize this top roller to help us do the top bead here. So make sure that we're not on top of that demount hook. Bring our top roller down. We'll get our bead press over here as well. And we'll start spinning it. So we're staying in our drop center. If we need to apply more pressure, we can with this roller. It's well lubricated, obviously. If you need a little bit more, you can. We're kind of coming up out of this drop center, so we can push in a little bit, or we can push down with the bead roller, and you can see it popped right down. We'll just keep working our way around here. Bring our tool head up. So we're going to show an alternate method of doing the top bead where we only utilize this top roller. So this can sometimes be handy if you don't want to touch the wheel whatsoever. You can do this. Just on this one, you want to make sure that everything, the wheel, tire, and everything is very well lubricated. We keep this bottle of lubricant too. Sometimes it's helpful, and boom. So just another method of doing it. Some people like doing that. We're gonna find our valve stem here. We're gonna inflate this tire. This one's pretty wide tire as it is, so it's probably not gonna take much work, but we do have the bead blaster over here if need be. We'll push auto inflate. Right there, no problem. So we'll let this air up and do its thing. Make sure, obviously, before you start doing it, it's well lubricated so you don't have any stick points. But again, if you do have a spot, either spray it with some lubricant or whatever you need to do. Okay, so we're all done. So we're gonna put this towel down again to protect the wheel lip, and take this bad boy out of here. Now again, this is too heavy of an assembly. It's too much distance for you to really manage by yourself. So, you know, something this heavy, you really want to be sure to have somebody help you out. But we can get it up there, and then we'll get somebody to help us lower it down. So as you can see, it'll still hold it. It's not going to raise it by itself. So it'll still control it. You just have to be a little bit careful, because as you raise it up and start flipping it onto the base, it will, once you start relieving pressure, it will start kicking it up a little bit. So you got to be careful and watch that. But otherwise, it definitely is better than picking it up. Now we're all ready to go.